Welcome to Rocky Top Wrestling Review. Starring NWA Robbie Cassidy and a special co-host tonight will be Cody Ices. Hey everybody, welcome to Rocky Top Wrestling Drunken Wrestling Review. Tonight, I'm finally with my co-host, Young Gun, the librarian, the king of Carter County, Young Gun Cody Ices.
Man, Bobby Mack, I got to tell you something. That is the greatest entrance that I have never, ever seen it live and in person. But seeing it in person is the greatest thing I might have ever seen.
That's right. I'm a heck of a heel, a heck of a face. I do it all. 1, 2, 3. You give me a microphone, and I don't flub up unless, of course, you're a guy going to the ring, and then I forget your name, and I have to look at my hand and remember what your name is.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. For the dozens and dozens of your podcast listeners out there.
Hi, Grandma. Hi, Mom.
If you, like you speak to your mom, I speak to your mom. But if you ever get the chance to record this live and show it in video, that is the greatest entrance you can ever check, seeing Bobby sit here and hum the final countdown.
That's right. You know, you started Rocky Top Wrestling. Where did the final countdown come from? I know from Europe originally, but where did you come up with the idea for Rocky Top Wrestling and the final countdown?
Well, you know, back before I was around, I guess I would have just been a little kid.
I don't think you were ever little, Cody.
You know, my buddy Easy Money and Dan Landell, who works as Exotica, running Reborn Wrestling right now, those guys ran a show out of Jason's barn down in Irwin, and they had Rocky Top Wrestling, and that was their music back then, and it just kind of carried over whenever me and Jason started running Rocky Top Wrestling, and then when you came in, it was just still there. It never went away.
And now every time I come out to NWA Smoke Him Out, Matt Rhodes has to play it as my theme. So,
Wait. When exactly is the last time you came out at NWA Smoke Him Out? I mean, I know you came out of closets, but NWA Smoke Him Out?
I'll say I never actually have come out, but NWA Smoke Him Out, what was that, August? I don't know. I screwed up the main event, and then they invited me back one more show, and that was the last time I was at those fine gentlemen's house.
Did they invite you back, or did you just show up?
Well, if you ask Ricky Gibbons, I just showed up. So you're a wrestler now, pro wrestler. Who were your idols when you were growing up? What wrestlers did you look up to in the ring?
Well, Flair, obviously.
Woo!
You know, I was a big Flair fan. Of course, you know, you talk to some of the older guys, you know, when I was around wrestling full time and everything, and I had, you know, different idols because I became a major wrestling fan during the Monday Night Wars. So you talk of... Whoa.
No, it's woo.
Yeah, but, you know, when I came around, it was Sting and Diamond Dallas Page that, you know, made me start. It was the whole... Anybody that was around, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, that was around during the NWO, WCW going on. And then as I kept watching it, of course, you know, I was a Stone Cold fan and all that. I mean, I was a product of the late 90s, early 2000s. So of course...
Is that why you drank beer?
Well, give me a hell yeah.
This podcast is for children, Cody. We don't say the H word.
This is not for children. It's a drunken wrestling review.
Oh yeah. So who and where were you trained? Who trained you, and where was it at?
Well, you know, it all sort of a little bit different. Me and Matt Scott, Honky Tonk Matt, when he was 13, I think I was 12. We went to Central Elementary School where Alan King and his organization was running wrestling. And Alex Winters came up, and, you know, Alan and those guys didn't really want Alex Winters around, but Alex came up and...
Very few people do want Alex Winters around, in all fairness to Alan King.
Well, you know, that may be. Alex Winters is always welcome in my home, but Alex, he came up and he was training with me and Matt, and he started training us eventually. And then after a while, we had some influence from Robbie Cassidy a little bit when we started going over to CW at the time. That was before it was even CWA. And eventually we started riding with Jason Easy Money, and I learned a lot of how to put matches together and how to have entertaining matches. The 10 out of however many that were entertaining that I had. A lot of them I had Jason teaching me a lot, and really anybody I ever worked in the ring with taught me something.
Who do you model yourself after in the ring?
I don't think I model myself after anybody. I mean, I'm sure you take influence from everybody. I mean, I'd like to say that I was modeled from the greats or whatever, but I just learned to work however I needed to work, or however the other guy in the ring was working. So I don't know that I'd say I modeled myself after anybody in particular.
All right. Let's talk about the King of Kingsport.
Let's talk about getting me another beer over there from that cooler first.
All right. Do you want me to throw it to you so you can catch it and dump it all over your face?
No, but I hope we talk about it later. You know what I want to talk about, but I just want to first say, Ricky Givens, Chris Richards, I'm drinking a cold beer for you, sir. The beer's cold, baby.
All right, so back to the King of Kingsport. What do you consider the King of Kingsport? Would you say the one on John B. Dennis Highway or the one on Weststone Drive? Which Burger King is better for you?
I always liked the original Whopper, but after many years in the business, I became a fan of Whopper Jr.
Gotcha. And speaking of Whopper Jr., who would be your toughest opponent?
You mean like actually physically a tough man, or hardest person to ever work with?
How about both? Who's a physically just difficult in the ring to work with, and also who was just the toughest guy you ever met in the locker room or met out there on the road?
I'm going to tell you, and anybody that's ever been in the ring with him would probably tell you this, and you probably wouldn't think of it by looking at him, but Robbie Cassidy is a tough son of a gun, man. When me and Matt broke in, he just used to beat us senseless, man. But he was teaching us respect, and after years went by, we really did appreciate the beatings he was giving us, and he was teaching us to respect the business and the sport. But yeah, Robbie Cassidy was a tough son of a gun. John Hawkins is a tough son of a gun.
He's a manager, right?
Hey, I don't care, man. John Hawkins was a tough son of a gun, and Chris Richards was a very, very tough guy.
Oh, he's not now?
Well, yeah, he still is. And the more beers you give him, the tougher he gets.
Yeah, I've seen him at Applebee's once or twice with OMF, and that wasn't a pretty picture.
Oh yeah, hey, I didn't think about him. Jason Kincaid. Jason Kincaid was it still is a tough son of a gun. I think he had some shoot fighting in his background too. Jason Kincaid, a very tough guy. But you want to talk about toughest guys to actually get a match out of and work with? There were a few guys over the years. A guy down in the Sweetwater, Athens area, that's down sort of between Knoxville and Chattanooga. His name is it was Major Mitchell. I don't know if he's still around or not, but me and Honky Tonk Matt one time just beat him senseless because he was terrible. And another guy this guy was a super nice guy, but he worked as the Freak for a while. This was way before you came along, but he was tough to get a match out of, and man, there's been many over the years that's been hard to get a match out of. Those are the two that come to mind to being the toughest to get a match out of.
All right, well, there goes our burial segment there. As you want to bury the Freak with a name like that, I'm sure it's...
Hey, as we talk about the tough guy, the Freak was a kickboxer, if I'm not mistaken. And, legitimately, he was a tough guy, but it just didn't translate to the ring. Just because you're a super tough guy sometimes doesn't mean that you're going out there. We're putting on an athletic performance, and there's tough guys involved, and I firmly believe that guys that step through the rope are tougher than the average guy walking across the street. But as far as some of the tough men that I've seen come into the ring, they don't last because there's no exercise in the world that gets you your wind build up for a wrestling match except wrestling. And some of these tough guys, and the Freak being one of them, as nice of a guy as he was, and as tough of a guy as he was, when he got in the ring, he just couldn't think, and quite frankly, he was dangerous once you got him in there because he just didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah, and I want to clarify. Like I heard on Chris Jericho's podcast, he was talking something about going back. This newest time. I guess he's going to work from here until WrestleMania. I guess he's calling it the road of Jericho or some deal. But he's only doing house shows, and he said the first time he took a bump since he's been out for 6 or 7 months, it felt like he just jarred his whole body, like he wasn't used to it. Do you feel like what he said, where you like almost build calluses to bumps, as well as I've also heard people around here say you only have a certain number of bumps in your body and then you're done. So do you feel like that, like when you step away and then you take that first bump, is it like a whole new shock, like where if you're doing it every week, it's not that big of a deal, and do you feel like you have a limited number of bumps in your body when you are a pro wrestler?
Well, to address the first question you just asked, yeah, if you step away and then you go back in the ring and you take a bump, you feel it. It's been categorized as entertainment, and Vince McMahon came out in the '80s and he said, "Hey, this is a work," and hey, what we're doing isn't quote unquote real, or however he said it, but that mat still hurts. The guys that have never been in a ring have this assumption that the wrestling ring feels just like you're landing on a mattress or a trampoline or something. And it's just not like that. I mean, you're landing on either 2x4s or plyboard on top of, on a good ring, 1.5 inch thick foam, on a bad ring, 1/2 inch foam. It doesn't feel good. You're taught to bump because you learn how to bump without actually truly physically long term hurting your body. You're not taught to bump and it not hurt. And so I believe, yeah, I mean, I stepped away numerous times and came back. And yeah, that first bump in a match, you think, oh my God. I mean, it's not a normal thing to do to your body, to sit there and sweep your feet out from under you and land flat on your back. So yeah, I believe that wholeheartedly. Your body becomes accustomed to it. For example, I had some back problems when I quit for a while, and I think a lot of those back problems weren't necessarily problems, but it was my body healing and getting a little bit better. And then you go back, and if you only wrestle once a month, then the bumps are going to hurt worse than when you're wrestling 4, 5, 6 times a week. The second part of that question you asked is your body only has a certain number of bumps in them. I don't. That might be true to an extent when you talk about age, longevity, how you take the bumps, where you take the bumps, how high are you going to take the bumps. I mean, Mick Foley, let's look at him, for example. If you're going to get thrown off of a Hell in a Cell onto a table, yeah, that bump counts for quite a few more than one bump. If you don't take care of your body's going to deteriorate. So I don't know that it's necessarily number of bumps. And I don't think that this person you're referring to is necessarily talking about just the bumps, but I think the point of that, and oddly enough, coming from this guy, is take care of your body so that you have more of a longevity in the wrestling industry.
All right. So if here's one that I hear a lot of podcasters ask when they have workers on. So I'm going to throw it to you. If you weren't a wrestler, what do you think you would do with your life? What else? What other job would you have?
Well, I think let's not make any mistake for any of the viewers out there. I'm a pro wrestler, and I was for many years, but I was never, any of these guys. And I'm going to give all the credit in the world real quick to your guys like Jason Kincaid and Chase Owens, whom they really are professional wrestlers. That's how they feed their families. That's how they make their money. That truly is their job. And when I was 18 to 22 years old, I was a professional wrestler. I was wrestling, 4 nights a week, getting paid every time I worked. Now I do it for enjoyment and because it's in my blood and I can't get it out. But What was your question again? What would I do? What would I do? Yeah.
What would you do if you weren't a professional wrestler? Like, is there any jobs out there that you're just like interested in? Like, you go into a business, you're like, man, I really wish I could cut the wood at Lowe's, or I go to McDonald's, like, man, I'd love to drop those French fries. That'd be so awesome to shake the salt on those. Is there any job out there? What was that? Did you fart?
Damn squirrels.
So, is there any job out there that if you weren't a pro wrestler that you would entertain you, that you'd want to do?
Well, for any of the dozens and dozens of people out there, I think it would be well known that I would love to have been a country music singer.
So, if it wasn't for your voice and your talent on the guitar, that's what you'd want to do.
Yeah. I mean, and my looks. I mean, luckily we don't have a camera on us, and I have a face for radio. But no, actually, I do write songs, and I'm actually in the middle of working on getting a CD or an album, or what do you call it now? A MP3.
Yeah, it's one of those things. So, CD. Did you get that one CD?
What CD?
CD's nuts. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's all from Snoop Dogg, 1994. Word up, yo.
I want everybody to know that I'm actually sitting beside a 38-year-old man doing this. Can we pause this real quick?
Yeah, we're gonna go to commercial break. We'll be right back with Rocky Top for Drunken Wrestling Review in a moment. Alright, so we're going to do more with the Young Gun Cody Ices here in just a few shows here, but we're going to jump into our Royal Rumble review, Royal Rumble number 6. Oh, I don't want to do this Royal Rumble review, but here we go. Oh my God, that is the way I feel after watching Royal Rumble number 6. Oh gosh. Alright, Royal Rumble number 6. Wow. It's been I think this is the first time I actually have ever seen this Royal Rumble. I haven't missed much in the past couple years. This Royal Rumble... Yeah, this is the first one. Let me put on my happy face. Let me get a little bit of excitement going. All right, so this is the first ever Royal Rumble where the winner of this Royal Rumble, it's announced at the beginning by Cleopatra and Caesar. They're in the ring. Of course, that's setting up the WrestleMania in Caesar's Palace. But they set it up where this is the first ever Royal Rumble where the winner is going to face the WWF champion at WrestleMania. The WWF champion at this time, of course, is the Hitman Bret Hart. And I guess right from there, I should know that this is going to be a boring Royal Rumble because if you got Bret Hart as your world champion, there's something wrong with you. Sorry, I'm not a Bret Hart fan. But anyway, so this Royal Rumble starts out. Number 1 is the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Of course, the year prior, he had gone from number 3 to win the World Heavyweight Championship. He was in the ring for an hour and 2 minutes. And number 2 is Bob Backlund, the returning Bob Backlund. Right away, let me jump into this right away. Okay, the commentators, and I understand Bob Backlund hadn't been around since 1983 when he lost the championship to the Iron Sheik, and he was mad because Hulk Hogan, was handing the title pretty much from, Sheik to
to be the new face of the company and blah, blah, blah. So he hasn't been around. This is 1993. It's been, almost 10 years. Bob Backlund is now 43 years old. The commentators put over Bob Backlund being old at 43 years old like he is 143 years old. That's all they want to talk about. Bob Backlund, 43 years old. Oh my gosh, such an old competitor, Bob Backlund. Get over it. Especially nowadays, 43 is nothing when it comes to wrestling, as a lot of 43-year-olds are out there wrestling. But anyway, so they keep putting over Bob Backlund as 43. Look across the ring, WWF at this time. Number 1, Ric Flair. He's entered this. He's 43 years old as well. The prior year, he was 42 when he went 1 hour and 2 minutes and won your top prize. So you got 43-year-old Bob Backlund. Later on in the match, you've got 44-year-old The King Jerry Lawler enter the ring. Does anybody mention how old Jerry Lawler is? Bueller. No, they do not. Jerry Lawler is actually older than Bob Backlund at this point in time. So Jerry Lawler comes in. Carlos Cologne, that's right, the man that I think was behind the Bruiser Brody killing. The man that is the father of the Matadors in the WWF now. Los Matadores, or whatever you want to call them. Los Sucks. Carlos Cologne, the now WWE Hall of Famer. He's in this Royal Rumble for his first ever Royal Rumble match and his last ever Royal Rumble match. He's 45. Do they mention he's 45? No. In fact, he is actually, here's a quote from the commentator, Carlos Cologne, a lot of fire in this young man. I'm sorry, I want to get the quote right. Carlos Cologne, a lot of fire in this youngster. Youngster at 45, didn't put over the fact that he's 45 years old, but in fact he's a youngster. Bob Backlund needs to be put out to pasture, but he's a youngster. Alright, anyway, so this Royal Rumble, managers still aren't allowed down at ringside. You look around the ring at the referees, you will see Bill Alfonso, the future ECW manager. He is down at the ringside area as one of the WWF referees. The only tag teams that ended up in this match at the same time were the Natural Disasters, Earthquake and Typhoon. And strange enough, they actually went at each other immediately upon entering the Royal Rumble. And Earthquake ended up eliminating Typhoon. So that was kind of unique. A couple unique matchups that you'll see. Flair versus Backlund. Historical-wise, you've got Ric Flair, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, against Bob Backlund, the former WWF Heavyweight Champion. A match that actually took place in 1983 in a cross-promotion that was supposed to unify the NWA and WWF World Championships. Of course, it never did. But historically, having Ric Flair versus Bob Backlund. Also, another historical matchup involved Backlund versus Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler, former AWA champion, as well as being the king of Memphis wrestling. So, historically wise, two big guys from the territory days, Jerry the King Lawler versus Bob Backlund. And another matchup I thought was kind of interesting when you had two former AWA champions going at it. In fact, it was the man who took the AWA championship from one another. Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig and Jerry Lawler had a few battles inside this Royal Rumble as well. So Jerry Lawler is the man that defeated Kurt Hennig for the AWA championship. So in a unification match, actually. So I thought that was a pretty neat historical aspect as well. More history in this one. You had debuts, the big guy from the WCW. He was coming over. He was not part of this Royal Rumble. Undertaker was in the ring. He was throwing everybody out. All of a sudden, this guy comes out. in this bodysuit that's painted like muscles, has fur over like the shoulders and the butt and the front, and he's supposed to. I don't even know what he's supposed to look like. If he's supposed to be like a Cro-Magnon man or what the deal is, but he enters the fray and he ends up beating up the Undertaker from pillar to post, as they would say. So it was his debut with Harvey Wippleman as his manager. So yeah, that happened. You had Damien Demento come out. Max Moon was in there. It was so sad to see. This is 1993. Hogan's gone from WWF. What they had turned into with the still going after the cartoony characters. And the problem was these cartoony characters weren't like the Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling cartoon characters that actually had some personality behind the cartoon. These cartoon characters just weren't over. So let's see. I'm looking through the notes here. Not a lot of other notes in this one. This is a tough one to watch. Watch it from the historical perspective that Ric Flair's in this one. This is his last Royal Rumble. This is his last WWF event. The next night on Raw, he faces Mr. Perfect in a loser leaves town match. And that's, of course, the match where Ric Flair loses in the middle of the ring to Curt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, and then he goes back to WCW. And the story goes that, once he got back there, Ole Anderson pretty much blew him off and said, well, what do I need with you anymore? You just lost to Mr. Perfect on free television last night. How do you expect to be back in the WCW as a world champion? So, historical there. Historical Bob Backlund is 43 years old. If you want to listen to WWF history, Carlos Colon being his only time in a WWF ring at 45 years old. The matchups I said, as well as, this is the first one ever to have the winner going to be against Bret Hart. The last two people that ended up in this Royal Rumble were the Macho Man Randy Savage and Yokozuna. Macho Man seemed to be holding his own against Yoko for quite a while. Hit him with a top rope move, and then for whatever reason decided that he was going to cover Yokozuna for the pin. It didn't work out so well with Macho Man because Yokozuna, when Macho Man went for the pin, Yoko just simply heaved him from his back. Yoko was on his back. Heaved Macho Man up and over the top rope from his back. So that was pretty impressive for a feat. But so that's Royal Rumble number 6 for you. The winner of the Royal Rumble, Yokozuna. Thank you again, everybody, for listening to Rocky Top Wrestling Drunken Wrestling Review, the Royal Rumble reviews, and Cody Ices interviews all mixed into one great podcast or YouTube cast. I'm not even sure which one we're supposed to call it. But anyway, I really appreciate everybody listening. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've also now got a Facebook page at Rocky Top Wrestling Drunken Wrestling Review. Our Twitter account as well, Rocky Top Wrestling Drunken Wrestling Review. So please follow and subscribe to all of those because we need the subscribers, we need the followers, we need the help. So help us out, everybody. Help us, help us, help us. Because we're going to keep bringing you this great entertainment for professional wrestling as long as you keep subscribing, keep commenting, keep telling us about everything, give us some feedback. We really do appreciate it. So, again, thanks everybody. This has been Rocky Top Wrestling Drunken Wrestling Review of the Royal Rumbles. We will see you again really soon.